Once upon a time, a long time ago, there were three bears who lived together in a cozy cottage in the woods. There was a great big papa bear, there was a middle-sized mama bear, and there was a teeny tiny baby bear. One morning, Papa Bear cooked some porridge for breakfast. When it was ready, Papa Bear poured his own porridge into a great big bowl. Next, he poured Mama Bear's porridge into a middle-sized bowl. And then Papa Bear poured Baby Bear's porridge into a teeny tiny bowl. He placed each bowl on the kitchen table. The three bears were all very hungry, but they could tell that the porridge was much too hot to eat. They opened the windows and opened the door so that the chilly morning air would cool the porridge. They decided that while they were waiting, they would go for a walk in the woods. Out they went, leaving the porridge behind on the table. Now, this very same morning, a young girl with golden yellow hair named Goldilocks had also gone out for a walk. She lived in another part of these same woods, but being a little girl out all by herself, poor Goldilocks had become lost in the forest. She wandered about, seeing nothing but trees, 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 and more trees. Tired and worn out, she finally came to the little cottage in the woods that belonged to the three bears. Here it is. See the three bears going for their walk? Here's Goldilocks coming up to the house. Goldilocks noticed right away that the doors and windows of the house were wide open. She smelled a delicious aroma coming from the house, and that aroma seemed to be inviting her inside. She tiptoed up to the open door and peeked in. No one was there, but she did see the three bowls of porridge on the table. Now, you might think that Goldilocks would turn around and walk away, since this was not her house. But not Goldilocks. She walked right in. Would you do that if you came to a house in the woods? I don't think I would do that. I would not walk right in. Goldilocks went straight to the table with the three bowls of porridge. She was quite hungry after having been lost in the forest, and she decided to have a little something to eat. First, she used the great big spoon to taste the porridge in the great big bowl, but it was too hot. Yikes, said Goldilocks. The porridge burned her tongue. Next, Goldilocks used the middle-sized spoon to taste the porridge in the middle-sized bowl. Yuck, said Goldilocks. That porridge was too cold. Then, using the teeny tiny spoon, she tasted the porridge in the teeny tiny bowl. Yum, said Goldilocks. It was just right. She gobbled up every last drop of porridge from the teeny tiny bowl. There she is, eating that porridge. Poor baby bear. Now Goldilocks looked all around the room. She saw three chairs, a great big chair, a middle-sized chair, and a teeny tiny chair. I think I'll take a little rest before I continue on my way, said Goldilocks. So she sat down in the great big chair. Here she is. It was too hard. Ouch, cried Goldilocks as she wiggled out of the great big chair. Next, Goldilocks sat down in the middle-sized chair, but it was too soft. Oof, said Goldilocks as she climbed out of the middle-sized chair. Then she sat down in the teeny tiny chair. Ah, said Goldilocks, and just as she was thinking that the teeny tiny chair was just right, crick, crack, crash! The chair broke into pieces and Goldilocks fell to the floor. Startled, Goldilocks stood up. She was still tired, so she looked for another place to rest. She went upstairs and found three beds. There was a great big bed, a middle-sized bed, and a teeny tiny bed. First, Goldilocks tried to lie down on the great big bed, but it was too high. Next, she lay down on the middle-sized bed, but it was too low. Finally, she laid down on the teeny tiny bed. It was just right. The teeny tiny bed was so comfortable, Goldilocks fell fast asleep. Just as Goldilocks was falling asleep upstairs, the three bears were coming back from their walk. They opened the door and came inside. Hungrier than ever, they went to the table to eat their porridge. They knew right away that someone had been inside their house because the table was not as they had left it. Papa Bear looked at his great big bowl and cried out in a great big voice, "Someone has been eating my porridge." Mama Bear looked at her middle-sized bowl and said in her middle-sized voice, "Someone has been eating my porridge." Then Baby Bear looked at his teeny tiny bowl and squeaked in his teeny tiny voice, "Someone has been eating my porridge and has eaten it all up." Then the three bears looked around. Papa Bear looked at his great big chair and cried out in his great big voice, "Someone has been sitting in my chair." Mama Bear looked at her middle-sized chair and said in her middle-sized voice, "Someone has been sitting in my chair." Then Baby Bear looked at the broken pieces of his teeny tiny chair, and he squeaked in his teeny tiny voice, "Someone has been sitting in my chair and has broken it all to pieces." The three bears ran upstairs to the bedroom. Papa Bear looked at his great big bed and said in his great big voice, "Someone has been sleeping in my bed." Mama Bear looked at her middle-sized bed and said in her middle-sized voice, "Someone has been sleeping in my bed." Then Baby Bear looked at his teeny tiny bed and squeaked in his teeny tiny voice, "Someone has been sleeping in my bed, and here she is." At this moment, the three bears talking awakened Goldilocks. She sat straight up in that teeny tiny bed. She saw the three bears standing above her, and she cried out, "Oh my!" She scrambled out of that teeny tiny bed as fast as she could. She leapt down the stairs and ran out the front door. She ran and she ran and she ran and she ran until she could not see that cottage any more. And to this day, the three bears have never seen Goldilocks again. There she is, running away from the cottage.